As the senior grad student here, I'll start, I guess. My name is Alex Loybin. I'm a sixth-year PhD in Ben Cosgrove's lab. My first year, I lived in a neighborhood called Cayuga Heights, which is basically the neighborhood north of campus, where it's kind of quieter, where professors sort of live. Now I live in an area called East Hill, which is just like a mile southeast of campus at about the same elevation. I pay $715 a month for my part of a 3-bed, 3-bath apartment, and with some utilities included. It's basically at the distance where if it's nice enough, I'll walk or bike. Other times, if I'm lazy, I might drive, but that's just because I'm lazy and not necessarily the person who bikes everywhere. I guess I'll let other people talk about their areas.
All right, so I'm Mark. I'm a third-year PhD student in Matt Hassick's lab. I currently live in an apartment building downtown where I pay $1,200-ish a month, including most utilities except for like internet. And I've been living here since my first year. And I guess for my big thing for kind of choosing that location was that I don't drive. I'm actually taking driving lessons as a grad student, which was an interesting thing when I went to get my license relative to all like the 16-year-olds at the DMV. But it's really easy to get around even not driving at all.
So some of you might recognize me from the current grad student Q&A yesterday, but I'm Erin. I'm a first year. I live in Fall Creek with 2 other roommates. They're both BME first years. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, and a lot of the apartments downtown in Fall Creek specifically are actually older homes, like from early 1900s types of homes that they like changed into like apartments. So like I live on the first floor and that's our apartment, and then there's an apartment above us that has like a family in it. Yeah, so I pay like $600 a month. It does not include utilities. Utilities is divided amongst the 3 of us. I'd pay, I want to say like $70 for heat in the winter, and then like $20 for internet, and then we do water on a annual basis. But trash tags are a thing in Ithaca that are not a thing anywhere else, and they're so confusing when you first like hear about them. So the way Ithaca wants to like push you to recycle is that they like, recycling is free. You just have to have like a bin that says like this giant R on it for recycling, and then you have to pay for these tags that you put on your trash bin. So instead of paying for like a monthly trash removal, you pay based on each bin, and it's like $7 a bin for 1 week. So that's also something you have to think about that is not really anywhere else. And then I'm gonna try and screen share here. So for people that are visual learners like myself, I'm gonna pull up Google Maps. So like over here is Cornell, and then down here is College Town, which is where all of like the undergrads live, and it's a little bit more expensive. So like what Alex was saying about East Hill Plaza is like over here. This is where he lives. And then this right here is like the Commons. So you hear a lot of people talk about the Commons, and that's like really big downtown. And then like over here is Fall Creek area, and this is where like a lot of graduate students live. And then Cayuga Heights is up here, and some people also live up here in Lansing, and this is like where the mall is and other stuff. So yeah, if that helps anybody else, because I know it always helps me.
All right, can everyone hear me? My video doesn't seem to be working, but I think my mic might be.
I can hear you, Chase.
Okay, good. I'm Chase Webb. I'm a second-year PhD student in Yedong Wong's lab, And I live in Maplewood, which is a newer apartment complex. I pay, I think, just a little bit over $900 a month for my half of a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. That includes all utilities, internet, cable, and in-unit washer dryer. And then I pay an extra $50 a month for parking. So it's about $950 a month. Yeah, I don't know what else for now. Should we launch into questions then?
Yeah, so the first one is, how did you guys find roommates going into your first year? So I am a first year. I also committed very close to the recruitment weekend. I think it was literally the following week I emailed Belinda and I was like, so I'm coming. And I annoyed the crap out of her trying to find people to live with. She's shaking her head, but I'm pretty sure I did. I just kept emailing her being like, so is anybody else committed yet? I'm trying to find a roommate. But as I said in previous panels, I went to undergrad at University of Buffalo. So I just went on Craigslist. I found a bunch of places that I was interested in. And I just came down here on one Saturday and just toured them all and videotaped it for people that were interested in also seeing it, that were possibly going to room with me, which we will do for you. If you ask us, we will go and vet out a place on Craigslist, because you always want to check it out before you sign anything, and we can FaceTime you or something like that. But yeah, so I just kept emailing Belinda being like, is anybody committed yet? And then I just mass emailed everybody that had committed and being like, okay, so I'm looking for roommates. I have found these places. Does that work for y'all? But I don't know what other people's experience were their first
I think another thing that people do frequently, not only the incoming students, but also the students that are a year above or even 2 years above, will frequently send out mass emails. So it's usually there's at least 3 or 4 emails that go out through the whole listserv of incoming students that are do you want to live with people? And then also there's a bunch of people on their own prerogative, like Aaron was saying, not only mass emailing, but if you catch up with anyone or know anyone from different recruitment weekends, people often use that as a way to get roommates in your first year or two.
I do know that this year as well, we've started putting together a list just so that people can get an idea of prices for how much apartments are. I saw someone mention pets, which ones are pet friendly. I know that there's a decent number that are, as well as people who are current students who are looking for roommates, in case you'd be interested in living with current BME students. And so we can send that out in the group me later or in the chat.
So I guess the next question was, is it possible to live on your own? So yes, I think actually that's one of Cornell's biggest selling points in terms of the cost of living relative to other schools, because we're a small town and we have medium town prices, if that makes sense, because the prices are a little hitched up because of the students that are coming in for undergrad. But I've lived on my own in a 1-bedroom, not even a studio, for 3 years, and managing the finances has been totally fine. I mean, obviously, you're going to pay more relative to other people. So if you heard I pay $1,200 a month, that's more than other people were saying. But if it's something that you care about, and for me, it was something I really cared about moving in, it's definitely doable, and your finances are totally fine relative to everyone else. It's I'm not going to be saving the same amount of money as some people are. There are people that can pay $600 a month for rent and can obviously save a pretty substantial amount, but you can definitely live comfortably by yourself with no issue.
I would say as a first year, it's probably, if you want to live by yourself, I'm guessing the easiest might be through Maplewood. I'm not sure about that exactly, but I know that a lot of times it's easier to find a good place your second year just because of the difficulty of just because of the way the timing of when you accept the offer compared to when the market usually opens up, which tends to be September, October, November for a lot of the more popular type places. So what I ended up doing was I lived somewhere just to find a place my first year. And then once I knew the area, then I found the type of place I knew I wanted to live in for my second year going forward.
I can't really comment on living by myself because I've always lived with roommates. So I'm not sure if Chase has anything to add to that, or else we can just move on to the next question.
I'd agree with pretty much everything Alex said and Mark said. I'm planning on moving to a one-bedroom apartment in a different building next year. It's going to be $1,000 a month, then an extra $50 a month for parking. So it's definitely doable, definitely affordable. I mean, no matter where you live, it's going to be cheaper if you live with roommates. But yeah, I would also definitely agree with what Alex said in terms of you can always find a place the first year and then move the next year. It seems like that's what a lot of people do if they aren't, most people aren't unhappy with their first year stuff. They just seem to find something better sometimes because some of the landlords here might only post stuff on like a sign in front of the building because they know they've got two colleges they're working out of to get renters from.
So I think the next question is, what would you say is the ratio of people with cars to people without cars? I have a car. Both of my roommates don't have a car. So we kind of, the only time we like actually need my car is when we go to the grocery store. So we just kind of do like a weekly thing. I'd say it's about 50-50. But again, you don't really need your car if you live downtown because the bus system's so good.
Also adding on to that, not even downtown, like Aaron was showing the map earlier of like North Ithaca where Lansing is, and people find it more convenient instead of driving to campus because of the price of the parking pass and how regular and frequent the buses are to actually just commute in. Even from some of the surrounding towns, there are, if not grad students, some of the full-time staff at the university will even commute in because the transit system is pretty robust for a small town, which is not something I expected coming in. And really, the only time people will drive into campus unless they wanted to pay for their own convenience is like you can drive in and park on campus at night if you wanted to do some work there. But like driving isn't an essential by any means, and there's tons of living accommodations that make it really feasible to live without driving. And I've succeeded without a car, and very fortunate to have friends that are willing to drive me to places. But it's definitely doable for everyone.
Or would you prefer to simply read the lecture on your own?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question? I did not catch any of that.
Sorry, I just didn't turn my mic off. It wasn't actually a question. Sorry.
Okay. Pet friendly. Yeah, so a lot of the houses will say specifically on Craigslist if they are pet friendly. I know mine is pet friendly, even though none of us have pets. A lot of the Fall Creek ones are pet friendly. I'm not sure. It will like say specifically on the listing on Craigslist though if it's not pet friendly. Anything else to add for that? I'm not sure if there are any more questions.
There was one above that we skipped over. Are there any areas that are less safe to live in? In general, like, no, I can't really. So I'm from a big city, but like Ithaca is like the safest place I've like ever been in my whole life. Like there's petty crime in every place, but Ithaca, we get like such infrequent announcements as to like when things are happening. It's ridiculous how little like crime it feels like there is in the town. That might be my experience, but like it's by far the safest place I've ever lived in my life. So I wouldn't be worried if anyone is.
Yeah, I also don't know about like anything being unsafe. Personally, I like to go out on the weekends and I walk home by myself at like 3 in the morning on a Saturday and I feel fine. But I also carry around pepper spray just for my own peace of mind in case somebody is following me. But I mean, it hasn't happened yet. I think it's pretty safe. I mean, obviously, like some of the streets are a little bit darker because they don't have necessarily all of them have like street lamps. So that is like a little bit sketchy. So I'm always like a little bit on the prowl, but nothing's ever happened.
If we don't have any more questions, maybe we could talk a little bit about things like grocery shopping or the farmers markets or other things around, just so that people can get a little bit better idea of kind of what you get from living in Ithaca.
Maybe you can also briefly, in terms of summarize the, I guess, the pros and cons of the different neighborhoods.
Sure, I'll handle that. So I would say that kind of starting on like Cornell campus and then circling around counterclockwise, like to the north, you have areas like Cayuga Heights, Lansing, Northeast Ithaca that tend to be quieter, farther away from the commons, sometimes
Alex,
cheaper.
can you show the map? Can you do the virtual map that Aaron had so that way people know like the different areas?
I could do one better.
Because that would be sweet.
Give me 1 second and I will.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
There's my little map I've been making. So can anyone see this?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, we
so cool. So this kind of illustrates like where different neighborhoods are. So like over here, right, is like hold on, let me get out of that. Yep. This is like Northeast Ithaca, right? And like Cayuga Heights, those are gonna be quieter, kind of like leafy suburban sort of areas. Professors tend to live over there. Those could be like more like houses that like you might have like a mother-in-law suite in, if anything. North of there is going to be like where the mall is and where Lansing is, or Gaslight Village apartments are. Those are probably areas where you might want a car based on the distance, although some people will take the bus. Yeah, but it takes a bit longer to get to campus. If you circle back to here, this is Fall Creek. This is at the base of the hill. This is going to be more of, there's going to be a lot more like graduate students living down there. It's going to be like cheaper shared homes slash halves of homes and apartments that are you tend to have like 3 or 4 people living in them. Some of them were built earlier than some of the other places. It's a nice neighborhood. Over here is going to be downtown to the Commons. That's going to be near like where most of the restaurants are at the base of the hill, where like the main shopping center areas are in what we call downtown. There's going to be like apartments that tend to be like on top of other buildings, for example, that are directly on the Commons or nearby areas. Over here is what's called South Hill, which is, as you can see, closer to Ithaca College than some of the other areas. There are some houses generally in that direction, but you're also going to be having a bit longer of a commute because if you have to go down the hill, then back up more or less. Over here in the middle is College Town, which is basically right next door to campus, which is why all the undergrads that can afford to try to live there. And as a result, you'll see rents that are creeping into the 4 digits as opposed to like in the 3 digits, especially if you want to live by yourself. It could get kind of pricey. However, it is extremely walkable to campus. So
yes. So to add quickly onto the college town, I don't think a lot of graduate students tend to live there because it is actually like, well, like other places it's feasible to live in like 1 bedrooms by yourself in college town. It's not really feasible, or outside of college town, it's not really feasible to live by yourself in college town.
I mean, it could be like 1,500 or something like that.
Some of the newer buildings are like 15 to even like 2,000 for like 1 bedrooms. So it's like, also it's got like the undergrads, like Alex was saying, tend to accumulate there. So I feel like as a whole, most people tend to avoid living in college town just because it's a lot more relaxing and cheaper to live in other places.
Yep. Next to College Town is a little pseudo neighborhood called Bell Sherman, next to like the elementary school. This asterisk is where Maplewood is, like this area right here, and that is definitely walkable. I think Chase can attest to the niceness of that area. Some of these houses in here that you might be able to like split half of a house, for example. But
I would like to add something on Bill Sherman. Sorry, Alex, because I looked at it last year when I was looking at places, and they have a specific law that you cannot have more than 2 people that are unrelated to each other because they want to make it so it's all families. So it's a lot harder to live there with multiple roommates.
Mhm.
There are a number of other apartment buildings, though, in that area besides Maplewood. I know Aria lives in one, and then there's a few others kind of between there. If you are looking to be pretty close to campus, almost as though you were in College Town, but not pay quite as much, and maybe have a little bit quieter experience.
And then over here is East Hill, or sometimes called East Ithaca, depending on where exactly it is. I live actually right here, more or less, next to like this little like mini shopping area with one of the grocery stores that's not Wegmans. You'll notice that Wegmans is actually over on the far side by the to the west of the Commons. As long as like the Walmart, the Lowe's, Home Depot, all that fun suburban shopping areas are over here, plus some that are north in Lansing, like the mall and the cinema and like the Best Buy, the Dick's Sporting Goods and things like that. So again, I live in a little 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, like townhouse style apartment in this area here. It's decently close. The nice thing is it's the same elevation as Cornell, as opposed to like anything that's basically along this line here is going to be like the line between Fall Creek and campus, like north-south. That's going to be your steep hill elevation change, more or less. So hopefully that gives you like a better idea of kind of how things are oriented, I guess. I don't know. I can paste this into the chat if people would like it.
Can you also point out the farmer's market?
Oh yeah, farmer's market is over here, right? More or less.
No, down.
It's right
there
here.
There you go.
Where it says Ithaca Farmers Market.
Yes. I just wanted to point it out because it is something that like a lot of people like to go to. Like I live very, very close to the farmer's market. It is a 10-minute walk, and so like it's nice to go there on a weekend because it comes out. I think during the summer it's like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday are the dates that it's going.
You live like right around here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Chase lives over here. Mark, where do you live?
Mark, you're muted.
I don't know if you know where the City View buildings are, but they're just like right across the creek south of downtown. So I'm like right where Aurora crosses the creek, essentially.
Oh, so you're like right here then.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
We had one question in the chat or I guess we have two that we've gotten. One is, what would you say is the ratio of people with cars to people without cars? And then the other is, are most houses or apartments furnished, or did you have to bring your own stuff?
So I think Aaron answered the car ratio one earlier, but to restate what Aaron said, it's around like 50-50 in terms of cars to not cars. And are most houses, apartments furnished? I think from what I've seen in doing my looking, a lot of like the bigger apartments will have furnished options. And you also have the option to do unfurnished in most of the places. But to my knowledge, most of the ones I've seen, it's pick your preference for a lot of them. I don't know if anyone has anything to the contrary.
I think Fall Creek is mainly unfurnished because that's like, I specifically looked for Fall Creek because I knew I wanted to be close to downtown. Like so Fall Creek is on the same level as the downtown, so it's really easy to just walk to downtown and do things there. Yeah, so most of them were unfinished in Fall Creek.
I'd say it just kind of varies from building to building. Oh, do we have another question?
Excuse me.
Oh.
Do you hear it coming on?
Mm-hmm.
We hear you. Or
I think Chase, that was just background noise.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it seems like a lot of it just kind of depends from place to place. There's plenty that are furnished if that's something that you need. There's plenty that are unfurnished if you'd rather bring your own stuff. And then got another question added onto that. How do grad students obtain their furniture? Anyone want to take that?
So I pre-bought all my stuff in Toronto and brought a U-Haul across the border, which I don't recommend doing. But I think in general, because it's a college town, there's like tons of used furniture that you can get really, really cheaply. And like, I know people that have accumulated furniture just by like moving from apartment to apartment. There's the one thing is like, there's no like IKEA or something nearby. So you can't like, if you wanted something specific, you'd have to be a little further out of your way to get that. But there's tons of, there's quite a few like recycling furniture stores. There's like the Recycle Center. There's a couple of furniture stores that do resale for pretty cheap. And in general, there's just, because it's a college town and people are constantly like moving in and out, there's always furniture to get, I feel like.
There's also a Facebook group. I didn't use it, but my roommate did, and she got like a bunch of different, like her desk, her chair, I think also her bed frame. So like people will post on this Facebook chat and be like, yes, so I'm leaving. Who wants this couch for like X amount of dollars? And then you can like message them and pick it up and that sort of stuff.
All right, guys, we have a couple more minutes and then we're going to wrap up this session. And then our next session is going to be outreach and community engagement, which is they're going to start jumping on here shortly. So any last minute questions for this great panel? Thank you guys both for your maps, and thank you everybody for your input. Alex, I did screenshot your map, so I have that now. So thank you.
I'm making it better.
Oh, when you get it ready, just go ahead and send it to Jan and I.
Don't worry, you will get it. It'll be nice.
I figured. At least we have something, and we can add it to our virtual website as well.
Cool. I don't need photo credit though.
You don't need photo credit? Okay, we can do that.
Just drawing
We've
credit.
got
sometimes.
We can just continue our
Yep.
record.
And then all of the session has been recorded as well, so we'll put that on the website as well. So for anybody who missed it, they can just still access it as well. And then at the same time, just use the GroupMe, use emails as well, just to see if you have additional questions. So I think with that, we'll wrap up this session, and then I think we'll just take a 2-minute break, and then we'll start with the next session.